Once upon a time there was a king who lost his wife and had a daughter named Princess Easel. He married again with an evil widow. Evil widow had a daughter too. On the morning after the wedding, when the two girls awoke, the woman hated Princess Easel from the bottom of her heart and did all she could to make her life miserable. She was as jealous as she could possibly be, because the Princess Easel was so beautiful and charming, while her own daughter was both ugly and repulsive. One winter's day, when there was a hard frost, and mountain and valley were covered with snow, the woman made calling the Princess Easel to her and said, "Put on this dress and go out into the wood and fetch me a basket of mangoes." Replied Princess Easel, "Mangoes don't grow in winter. The earth is all frozen, and the snow has covered up everything. It is so cold outside that one's very breath freezes. The wind will whistle through my dress, and the brambles tear it from my body. How dare you contradict me?" said her stepmother. "Be off with you at once, and don't show your face again till you have filled the basket with mangoes." Then she gave her a hard crust of bread, saying, "That will be enough for you today," and she thought to herself, "The girl will certainly die of with hunger and cold outside, and I shan't be bothered with her anymore." The princess was so obedient and set out with her little basket. There was nothing but snow far and near, and not a green blade of grass to be seen anywhere. When she came to the wood, she saw a little beautiful house, and out of it peeped 3 little dwarfs. She wished them good day, and knocked modestly at the door. They called out to her to enter, so she stepped in and sat down on a seat by the fire, wishing to warm herself and eat her breakfast. The dwarfs said at once, "Give us some of your food." "Gladly," she said, and breaking her crust in 2, she gave them the half. Then they asked her what she was doing in the depths of winter in her thin dress. "Oh," she answered, "I have been sent to get a basket full of mangoes, and I daren't show my face again at home till I bring them with me." When she had finished her bread, they told her to sweep away the snow from the front door. As soon as she left the room to do so, the 3 little men consulted what they should give her as a reward for being so sweet and good, and for sharing her last crust with them. The first said, "Every night she shall grow prettier." The second, "Every time she opens her mouth a piece of diamond shall fall out." And the third, "A handsome prince shall come and marry her." The girl in the meantime was doing as the dwarfs had bidden her, and was sweeping the snow away from the front door. And what do you think she found there? Heaps of fine ripe mangoes that showed out dark yellow against the white snow. She joyfully picked enough to fill her basket, thanked the little men for their kindness, shook hands with them, and ran home to bring her stepmother what she had asked for. When she walked in and said, "Good evening," a piece of diamond fell out of her mouth. Then she told what had happened to her in the wood, and at every word pieces of diamond dropped from her mouth, so that the room was soon covered with them. "She's surely more money than wit to throw diamond about like that," said her stepsister. But in her secret heart she was very jealous, and determined that she too would go to the wood and look for mangoes. But her mother refused to let her go, saying, "My dear child, it is far too cold. You might freeze to death." The girl, however, left her no peace, so she was forced at last to give in. But she insisted on her putting on a beautiful fur coat, and she gave her bread and butter, mangoes and cakes to eat on the way. The girl went straight to the little house in the wood, and as before the 3 little men were looking out of the window. She took no notice of them, and without as much as "by your leave," or "with your leave," she flounced into the room, sat herself down at the fire, and began to eat her bread and butter, mangoes and cakes. "Give us some," cried the dwarfs. But she answered, "No, I won't. It's hardly enough for myself, so catch me giving you any." When she had finished eating, they said, "There's a broom for you. Go and clear home." "I'll see myself further," she answered rudely. "Do it yourselves. I'm not your servant." When she saw that they did not mean to give her anything, she left the house in no amiable frame of mind. Then the 3 little men consulted what they should do to her. Because she was so bad and had such an evil heart, that she grudged everybody their good fortune. The first said, "She shall grow uglier every night." The second, "Every time she speaks of fire shall jump out of her mouth." And the third, "She shall become a fatty woman." The girl searched for mangoes, but she found none, and returned home in a very bad temper. When she opened her mouth to tell her mother what had befallen her in the wood, a fire jumped out, so that everyone was fearful to her. Then the stepmother was more furious than ever, and did nothing but plot mischief against the man's daughter, who was daily growing more and more beautiful. At last, one day the wicked woman took a large pot, put it on the fire and boiled some yarn in it. When it was well scalded, she hung it round the Princess Easel girl's shoulder, and giving her an axe, she bade her break a hole in the frozen river and rinse the yarn in it. Her stepdaughter obeyed as usual and went and broke a hole in the ice. When she was in the act of wringing out the yarn, a magnificent carriage passed, and the hansom sat inside. The carriage stood still, and the prince asked her, "Hey, pretty girl, who are you, and what in the wide world are you doing here?" "I am a cursed princess," she answered, and tell her whole story. Then the prince was sorry for her, and he said, "Will you come away with me?" "Most gladly," she replied, for she knew how willingly she would leave her stepmother and sister, and how glad they would be to be rid of her. So she stepped into the carriage and drove away with the prince, and when they reached his palace, the wedding was celebrated with much splendor. So all turned out just as the three little dwarfs had said.